I was really hoping to show you the finished Luna Fairy painting, but I think I ruined it. A couple weeks ago, I finished the inking for this piece I called the Luna Fairy because the wings are from a Luna moth. And it took me maybe 40 hours to ink all of this. I did this over a couple weeks or so, and I made a whole video about it, and I'll link it in the description. But I was really proud of it. I really liked how the inking came out, and I was excited to start painting it. And I had an idea in mind for what I wanted to do for the colors, but just to be safe, I decided to print out some test pieces that I could color with markers. And this is what smart people do. This is what experienced artists do. They don't jump right in with the colors. They do some tests, some color comps, and they see if the ideas that they have in their head are the right ones. Supposedly. I keep doing color comps, and for some reason, I always go with my initial gut instinct anyhow. I don't think I've done a color comp and had an epiphany, but doing it makes me feel smarter because I think if I didn't do it and I didn't like the colors, I would have blamed myself for not doing a color comp. So, and it doesn't really cost much. What is it? A little bit of printer ink and some markers and a little bit of time. It's not a bad thing to do some tests. And I really wanted to evoke the idea of the mushroom being the source of light. The problem was I wasn't getting the feel that I wanted to from the markers. The markers just weren't giving me the look I wanted. So I decided to instead try coloring it in digitally, which means it's time to dust off my Wacom tablet and do the obligatory 2 tries to plug in a USB port, open up Affinity, which I'm new to since I'm getting rid of all of the Adobe products, import the scan and start selecting shapes. And basically all I'm doing is I'm just gonna block out the color shapes that I want to use and see if it works for me. I mean, I prefer to do stuff traditionally if I can, but sometimes the materials just aren't enough for what you need, whether it's from a speed point of view or a saturation point of view or ease point of view. Digital is in a lot of ways easier. And there's nothing saying that you can't use digital to do your previs and then do your traditional work based on that. This is essentially what I had in my mind, and for some reason I just couldn't get it to work in markers. So I have a visual now I can work with that I made digitally. And despite the fact that this is on really, really thick 600 GSM paper, I'm taping it down to a board because no matter how thick the paper is, it's always going to warp. So tape your paper down if you're going to be doing watercolors. So I hope you can understand. I had spent, like I said earlier, 40 hours on this piece. I put a lot of detail in there. I spent a lot of time on this, and I put a lot of my effort into this piece. And because of that, I was really nervous. I was worried I was going to ruin it. And despite the fact that I've been doing this professionally for 35 years, I'm always really nervous. I don't think it ever goes away. I'm sorry to say. I know you've felt it too. You've done a drawing that you really like and you're going to color it in or you're going to ink it and you're afraid that the next step is going to ruin something you're really, really proud of. I don't think that fear ever goes away. What does change though is as I've gotten older, as I've made more art, and in making more art, I've made a lot more mistakes. I've learned to fix them. Not all of them, but I've learned to overcome the mistakes. And that gives me a little bit of sense of confidence to make art knowing that I can fix most of the mistakes. So the more art you make, the more mistakes you're going to make, the more you will do what you can to learn how to fix those mistakes, the more you get a little bit of confidence knowing that you have a bit of a bag of tricks of things you could do to help yourself when you make a mistake. And you can see I'm having fun. I'm enjoying this. I like the colors. I like the feel of the watercolor on the watercolor paper. I'm enjoying this. I'm listening to music and I'm in the moment and I'm in my happy place. And that's why we do this. Yes, mistakes suck. Yes, having art that you don't like sucks. No one wants to make ugly art, but it happens. But the process, being in the moment and making art and just creating, good art or bad art, it's the act of making art that is why we do it. I already told you at the beginning of this video that I messed up. I'm not happy with this piece, but I don't regret a single moment of this. I don't regret the time I spent sitting here painting the little, whatever these folds are at the bottom of a mushroom. I had fun. It was pleasant. Don't forget that. Don't forget why we make art. We make art because it makes us happy. We don't make art because it's going to make us rich. We don't make art because it's a job we got to go to. We make art because it makes us happy. We like color. We like lines. We like shading. We like noodling. We like this kind of stuff. This is our happy place. Don't let perfectionism or imposter syndrome or good art or bad art take that joy away from you. Okay, so I wanted this to be a nighttime scene, which I think is really where all of my problems come from, because that's the same thing that happened with the Gothic Vampire. It was a nighttime scene, and I wound up having so many problems with that because I lost all of my inking in the background on the bookshelf. But despite going through that and all of the troubles that I went through, I decided that this needed to be a night piece too. And I think watercolor in general just doesn't lend itself well to dark, moody pieces. Or at least not with the inking technique that I do, where I need to see the ink lines. The reason why I like this technique so much is because the ink is waterproof, which means I can lay down line work that I'm really, really happy with, and I don't need to worry about losing it. And then the other thing is that watercolor is a transparent medium, which means that, well, it's transparent, so you can see the line work underneath it, and that's worked very well for me. But watercolor is only transparent to a degree. You can only add so many layers of watercolor before you start to lose the line work. And if you see here, the line work is still showing up, and this is a very thin line work. This is that 0.003 micron. So there's not a lot there, and I'm trying to keep it very light so that way we can still keep the detail. This is the sweet spot for watercolors and ink. It's to have really strong line work and really light washes of watercolor. And I'm sorry for repeating myself, but this is my happy place. Me just sitting here coloring in the ink lines that I did. It's like a giant coloring book for me. So the blue is too daytime for me, and I want it to feel a little bit more nighttime. So I decided to go over it with another pass of blue. It's the same blue, just a second pass. And as you can see, it's covering up the ink lines a little bit more. I'm losing some of that detail, but it's the right color shift. It's the right value shift for me. Now it's starting to feel like nighttime. Now it's starting to feel a little bit more moodier, not this light, breezy blue sky that was not what I was going for. Unfortunately, that means I also have to darken up the trees. The trees need to look like they're in nighttime as well. So I'm doing a pass of blue over them too, which is the right call. It now feels like nighttime, but I'm losing detail. Undaunted, okay, maybe a little bit daunted, I decide to at least fill in the leaves. This was always something I had planned on doing, was just some brush strokes to indicate the leaves of the tree. I didn't want to draw each individual leaf, so I thought I would leave the top of the trees kind of blank in the inking so I could add just some splashes of color for the leaves. And now I'm feeling like I need to at least highlight the vines that are growing up the side. I guess these are like the stem of the vines. And as much as I'm loath to bring out the colored pencils, it's the right thing to do. It's the smart thing to do for this situation. And now I feel like I've lost some of the ink lines, so I'm going back with the micron 0.003, and I'm just touching it up a little bit, just what the colored pencil happened to go over. And the vines need a little bit of variation. We need to show a little bit of three-dimensionality to it, so I'm going to add a little bit of shadows to the bottom of the vines. And of course, the vines are above the tree trunk and the stems of the vine, so I'm going to add some purple for shading there too. And this is what I do for the next couple days. Is I come back to it, and for 20, 30 minutes at a time, I'll just keep embellishing, keep working on one tree, one little spot. And I'm listening to music and I'm happy doing it. I really am. But I'm noticing that you can still see the paper underneath, which makes it look lighter than it needs to be. And it needs to get darker. It needs to be more nighttime. We shouldn't be able to see the paper underneath it. So I make an executive decision to use concentrated watercolors. And this is where I think I both made the right decision to darken the background and the wrong decision to darken the background. I love concentrated watercolors because they are so saturated. You get some really powerful colors and they will soak into the paper. You won't see the white of the paper at all once you use them. The downside is that because I'd already layered a couple passes of watercolors, we're gonna lose the inking. But look at it. Look at how beautifully blue it is and how it feels dark. It feels magical in some way. But my line work, it's gone. And I'm desperately trying to save it by essentially re-inking the background. And when that doesn't work, I bring out the colored pencils again. This is where panic sets in. This is where desperation kicks in. I'm going to my bag of tricks of things I've done in the past to fix almost this same situation, and I'm seeing what I can do to make it better. And colored pencils is my next up in my bag of tricks. I'm upset at myself at this point. I'm upset that I've lost all of the inking that I did, all of the details. I'm upset that the piece looks flat, unappealing. I know it's going to get better, but I'm upset that I lost all of that work. So a few hours in, and I think I've done what I can to save the background. I'm not thrilled with the leaves just in general, but this isn't the main focal point of the piece. I just need it to look like a forest in the background. And I think I did that. I think it looks like a forest. I mean, when you look across it's not so bad. But that's just the trees. That's just the forest in the background. It's time to get that moss green. And if you remember, there's a lot of moss. It took me, I think, a week to draw all of this moss. So yeah, all right, we need to get that green in there. And I decided to use the concentrated watercolors because I wanted to preserve the line work. I put all that time into the line work, and after my experience with the forest in the background, I realized I don't want to start off with watercolors because watercolors are a bit more opaque than the concentrated watercolors. So just out of the tube watercolors, just so you know, are a little bit more like 20% more opaque than concentrated watercolors. Now, the downside of concentrated watercolors is they lift up really easy. So if any little bit of water touches them, they're going to bleed. And I knew that going in, but I thought I'll make that Tomorrow Scott's problem. And sure enough, Tomorrow Scott had a lot of problems. So here's the thing. During the inking of this piece, I used a little bit of a white touch-up paint. It was like, I don't know, Posca or something like that, or maybe the Uniball Signo, to just clean up some lines I didn't like. And you could see that the paint just didn't sit on it. And no matter how much paint I put on it, it will never soak up the paint because I'm Tomorrow Scott. And yesterday Scott thought I could handle this problem. So apparently at some point I'm going to have to handle this, most likely with gouache. But the moss looks good. You can see all of the ink lines, which makes me very happy. And the green is very saturated. The thing is that next I'm going to have to add shading to it because it's not all going to be green. It's going to have blues and purples in it because the parts that are not directly underneath the light source, which is the mushroom, are going to be in shadow. And this looks good. This is what I'm hoping for. Just some nice combination of cool colors for the background. So I'm just going to add some yellow so that way the mushrooms in the distance look like they're illuminating the area as well. And we're going to add some pink for the mushrooms. I'm going to make the mushrooms pink. I hope this isn't depressing. I hope I'm not sounding depressed. I truly was having a really good time, but you know, not every piece goes great, and I want to be transparent about that. So the light coming from the mushrooms is going to be seen on the moss. So the local moss way back there is going to have a little bit of light hitting it. So I'm just using a very light green colored pencil to kind of indicate that there's some light hitting the moss. And then we can't forget about the acorn, just adding a very, very neutral brown back there because it's not, again, this is not the focal point. So I want to keep it very boring. And we're just going to add a little bit of purple so that way it has a sense of three-dimensionality to it. Some lighting coming from the right side where the larger mushroom is emitting light. And I think at this point, I was just tired of working on the background and I wanted to start working on the fairy. I was getting a little bit depressed because I was so worried about losing all of that work. And I thought I would at least see if I do the main character and I really like the main character, that'll give me the strength, the courage to keep going on. But right now, I felt like I was losing the moss as well, and I was still upset about the trees in the background. So I'm gonna paint the fairy. And I'm going with blue and teal for their wings because I wanted them to feel like a nighttime creature. I like the name Luna and the pieces at night, and I thought they should kind of be a part of the night. And so I went with those colors. Their clothing, on the other hand, I went crazy with it because I like that mismatched patterns and colors, and I like that. I think it feels very whimsical. And if you're a fan of the Dreamland Chronicles, my webcomic series, you may notice the similarities between this Luna Fairy's color palette and Kiwi the Fairy from the Dreamland Chronicles. I love the pink and yellow combination. So here's regret number whatever number we're on, but I thought I would indicate the light source being a warm yellow coming from the mushroom. And here I am, as if I was painting with gouache, adding the light source. And this is not the way to do it with watercolor. I regretted this so bad later on, but this is me adding the light source, going, here's where the light is hitting. And it got worse because I thought I would give them blue skin. And it didn't work. I'm sure you're going to see, but I like the concept of blue skin. But it didn't work. I added shadows and it really didn't help. You see how horribly that yellow is just sticking out there? I should have just left it white or just left the white of the paper, but I've never done this before. I've never painted someone with blue skin with watercolor with a yellow light source, believe it or not. There's a first time. I mean, there's so many first times with every piece that you do, especially if you're constantly trying to paint something different every time. And that's the most frustrating thing about it, is that I'm not good at everything the first time because I'm human. And even though I like to talk about this a lot in my book and here on the YouTube channel, I talk about how we're human and we're going to make mistakes and we should be okay with that. I'm still human and I still get upset about it. But I'm sharing this with you. I'm sharing this so you could see that even though I am constantly talking about embracing your mistakes and embracing your humanity, I still suffer from it too. So if you're having that same problem, if you've read the book, if you've watched me and you're saying, why can't I do it? Just know that I'm still struggling with it too. I've been doing this my entire life and I still struggle with that, getting upset that I'm not good at something, even if it's the first time I've done it. We're flawed creatures, humans. We are. So I think the more we embrace that, the more we know that. And I need to talk about it a lot because I need it for myself too. So I'm doing this for you and I'm doing this for me. Is we're not going to be perfect at anything ever. And we're not going to be great at something the first time we try it, or maybe the 10th time we try it. So if we have to keep saying it to each other, let's keep saying it to each other. As I continue to noodle this, I don't think that the Luna Fairy is beyond repair. I've had similar problems with other larger paintings, and I've found a way to like them again. But for now, I think I'm going to place this painting in my art drawer and step away for a bit. This is art. This is being a human. Sometimes our brain sees one thing, but the materials can't match it, or our skills, or lack of skills. Whatever it is, I just wanted you to know you're not alone. I've been making art for 50 years, 35 of it professionally, and I just spent a good 40 hours on this piece, and I need to walk away from it. Even after that many years of making art, I still mess up. I still can't figure out the materials or the subject matter. There's still days where things just don't go well. And when that happens, and it will happen, you move on. You make more art. Don't give up, because the next piece of art you make could change the world. I think I could finish this painting one day. I think I can save it one day when I'm ready for it, when I'm strong enough to try again.